It's way past my bedtime, but it's also way past time to get this episode out, right? So I'm like literally standing here staring at my computer thinking, do I go to bed like I want to? Or do I try and get this episode 60 done? Obviously, we know the answer. It's Coast to Coast Pinball. Let's go. Welcome to Coast to Coast Pinball. Thank you for listening. Episode number 60. My name is Nate Shivers. This is a podcast. It's always a commentary, and I'm a man out of quarters. What's going on? So I can tell now, today was my official day, that I know the tolerance level of our faithful listening crew out there. 8 days is roughly how long I can go between episodes. 7 or 8 days. I think 7 days ago I did an episode. At the 7-day mark, I start getting some emails and a few Facebook messages pop up. And then day 8 from the last episode today, I think I had 6 emails / Facebook / Pinside messages asking me, what happened? Where are you? It's okay. I'm not going to leave. I'm in this for the long haul. Coast to Coast Pinball is here to stay. But life got really busy. I got really sick. I think anybody that listened to episode 59, I was on a bunch of cold medicine. I was delirious. It was not a good scene. I don't know. So I was really sick. Lost my voice, basically. I think my voice is still a little scratchy right now. Work is, I'll just tell you, for the years upon years that I may or may not be here with Coast to Coast Pinball, let's say this goes on for years, every January is going to be really tough. Because the way my industry works, a lot of things happen in late January. So I've been working my butt off trying to balance work with Teresa, with pinball. It's a juggling act. I have a lot of trips looming, which is going to be great for the show because we're going to go see some fun places. Some we've been to before, some we have not been to before. We're going to play games we've never played before. We are going to make fun of games we have played before. It's going to be good times. I am leaving for New York City on Thursday of this week, and I plan on working my territory, my newly added Northern Jersey portion of my territory, Friday, and ending up Friday night down in the Asbury Park area. Going to play at the Silver Ball Museum. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I'm actually in Manhattan, so I plan on heading back over to Modern Pinball. See Steve Epstein's place, see how they've come along in the past few months. Probably end up at Reciprocal Skateboards, likely at 2-Bits Retro Arcade. Going to go back to Brooklyn. There's a few other places on my radar that we're going to go check out. So there's a lot of location pinball on the East Coast coming up. I'm very excited. I hope that I can record shows out on the road. I did a few of those last year, and I hope that I can get myself to do that. It's hard sometimes when you travel and work all day and then go play some pinball to, set up in a hotel room and try and record the podcast. But in any case, not complaining, just sort of letting you know all is well. Things are getting good. We're just warming up. 2014 is just warming up. And speaking of how busy it's going to be, so with all this travel that I'll be doing, these are work trips, obviously, but when you're on the road for a week to 10 days, there's definitely downtime, and I choose to fill that downtime with a lot of pinball. But there's also some pinball trips coming up this year. I've been staring at a 2014 calendar for literally a couple months now, trying to plan out what pinball events and shows and tournaments I could go to. And some of them I'm going to go and attend as literally I'm just a dude. I'm here to play some pinball, enter some tournaments, play some games you don't see very often, meet some people from the forums, all that good stuff. And then some of them possibly, I've actually had a formal invite from a show to come and be a part of the show. It was very flattering. I was very excited. Don't quite know what capacity that will be in yet. We're still in talks. At the very least, I plan on doing a couple end of the day podcast updates. Maybe have some guests on to tie those days up at a rather large show in this industry. There's been talk of possibly, they threw out the idea of me maybe moderating a forum of some sort. We'll see. But yeah, so more news to come on that. But I've got some good stuff coming up that I'll be able to get you. I think a lot of good insight, some content, just stuff to listen to, stories to tell about custom games, some of the P-Rock based games that we talked about last year around Expo. I'm probably going to run into some of those designers, some of the top players. After playing in It Never Drains in Southern California, I didn't fare all that well, but it was fun, and I want to play some more tournament pinball for sure in 2014. So that's definitely on my mind. So anyway, I will say this. I know for sure the next event type thing that I will be able to attend, and have already now booked both flights and hotels, and it's set in stone, is going to be the Texas Pinball Festival in Frisco, Texas, March 28th through the 30th. And if you're really watching the calendar, you might realize that, hey, that's the weekend of Pinburg. Well, I couldn't commit myself to anywhere in time to make the Pinburg tournament. It sold out very quickly this year. So didn't really want to just go and hang out at a big tournament that I couldn't be a part of. So, and the Texas Pinball Festival, honestly, is a very large pinball show. Well attended. They advertise over 400 pinball games. There's going to be a lot of cool speakers, a lot of great there's Steve Ritchie, and a lot of great booths with vendors, and I think it's really going to be a great time. Roger Sharp's going to be there, John Borg's going to be there, Dirty Donnie's going to be there. I think the Texas Pinball Festival is going to, so Expo's sort of the industry trade show where, it's public, but it's a lot of the industry vibe. I think the Texas Pinball Festival, from what I read and what I've talked to a few people about, it's going to be sort of the nation's pinball festival this year. This is the big one for a lot of people. It's a shame that it's running concurrent with Pinburg. And I know that some of the organizers have talked about, didn't mean to do that. That's just how it worked. But I'm really excited. I think that's going to be awesome. I look forward to that. So I'm actually not staying at the Embassy Suites. They have a block, that's sold out for the festival. I'm a Marriott guy. I stay at Marriott properties for work, so I have a deal through Marriott. So I'll be about 5 minutes away at a property there. So I can't wait. Looking forward to meeting some people. I'm going to be partnering with a listener of the show who will announce at a later date after I've shored up all the details, with a good listener of the show, to have a spot where I can send people to buy Coast2Coast Pinball t-shirts, pick up free stickers, and one of our listeners, who is also a vendor, who'll be at the show with his own space, has been gracious enough to offer me that spot. I wanted to split money with him. He said, no, just throw me a t-shirt or something. So we'll take care of him and announce that well ahead of the show. So going to be exciting. Hopefully going to do some broadcasting from the show, and looking forward to that. So lots of great exhibitors, vendors, events, tournaments. Can't wait until Dallas. So that's kind of been high on my mind. If you've been following my Facebook account, our Facebook account here at the Empire, the Coast2Coast Pinball Empire. Now, if you've been following the Facebook account, you will see that I bought another pinball machine. Let me tell you how this worked. I was literally laying in bed. Teresa and I were getting ready to go to bed, and I was perusing Twitter. And on my Twitter feed popped up the San Diego Pinball Club has like these little auto Twitter posts when anybody posts in the forum. And it said 4 games for sale in San Diego. So I'm curious. I'm a bit of a junkie when it comes to buying pinball machines. So I clicked on the link, and the link had 4 games listed. And I guess I'm bad in that I don't know who all the people in my local San Diego Pinball Club are. I probably should, but I don't. And I didn't realize that the person posting this was, a pretty big name in playing pinball. So, anyway, there were 4 games listed. It was High Speed, A pitch and bat game, which I obviously not really my scene per se. I'm sure people have fun with their pitch and bat games, but not really what I'm looking for. I'm totally blanking on the fourth game, but it was I'll pull this out. Super Straight. Thank you. Super Straight. An NEM card-based game, obviously Super Straight. And then the one that caught my attention most was Skylab. Now, if you're not familiar with Skylab is a Williams. Obviously, it's an electromechanical and EM game built in 1974 with a space theme off of Skylab. And if you don't know what Skylab actually is, back in 1973, NASA, the American aerospace folks, launched Skylab into the sky to orbit the Earth, and it orbited the Earth for, I believe, like 6 years or something like that. But it sort of was a big deal in the country. Skylab, it was the first, kind of space station-y type thing. So, pinball and space themes have always sort of had a nice history. And in 1974, about a year after Skylab was launched, Williams released Skylab the Pinball Machine. It's a single-player game, and I love the artwork on this game. So if you go and read about Skylab and read the reviews, a lot of people kind of dismiss it as far as gameplay. It's very basic. It's a basic game, and I'm not a huge EM guy. It was pretty sad watching me set up this EM machine because it took me a little bit to make sure I had everything right. But it's a slow game. Let's be real. There's long sort of rubber rings down the sides that score points. They're like sort of side bumpers. There's two regular slingshots. There are a couple rollover switches that switch which side of the in lane is giving a bonus. There is two pop bumpers up top. And there's two rollover switches through little mini inlane type things up at the top. So the main toy or gimmick of Skylab is you have these captive balls in what is sort of like the Skylab, the actual body of the space station, right in the middle of the playfield. So if you look at a photo of the playfield of Skylab or its Add-A-Ball counterpart, Space Lab, you'll see that there's two rows that have 5 balls total between the two rows. And so at first glance, you think that there might be 5 balls on one side and 0 balls on the other, or 4 and 1, or 3 and 2, or 2 and 3, etc. So what do? Well, the balls settle down at the bottom of this captive ball target, and you can hit either the right lane or the left lane of balls, which shoots the ball up around the top and moves the top ball over to the other side. So when you start the game can tell which side has the least balls on it, and that side will have, there's 2 arrows below it showing, bonus points. The scoring is enhanced once you get all 5 balls to this side. So that's sort of the goal. And actually, you get a ball. You win a free ball when you get all 5 balls to one side. So I love it. I really like it. It's not the most complex of this era. I mean, this era, if you know 1974 at all, which, let's be real, I really didn't. I had to go look it all up. The big games from 1974 from Williams were Dealer's Choice. That's actually a really high production game. Strato Flight, Star Pool. This was the year Bally released Wizard, which was a big one. Bow and Arrow, Champ. Gottlieb was big with Big Indian, and then they had the Sky Jump / Skydive machines, and then Megatron. I just got an email about Skydive and Sky Jump the other day from someone. The other day, it was probably a month ago, from somebody who's into skydiving. So I like the game. I like the art on that game a lot. So that's sort of the era, and I would by no means ever say that Space Lab or Skylab was one of the great playing games of that era. It's not ranked in the EM Top 100 on Pinside. Yes, there's an EM Top 100 on Pinside. But I have always really liked, the backglass. The backglass is just so cool. It's just really cool artwork with cool colors. Go look it up. I won't explain it to you, but there's a charm about single-player games from this era, only having one score reel set and really simplistic moving reels on the back glass. It's just real classy looking, real beautiful. And the playfield's pretty on this. I like it. And it's sort of simple. There's something clean about it. And I like the gimmick of moving the balls. It gives me something when I'm playing an EM to always go for. I like EMs with lots of drop targets, which this does not have, but I do like EMs like that where I always have like sort of targets to go after, or something like this where there's a shot. And this shot's kind of a pain because it's right up the middle, and if you post out, you drain a lot of times. So anyway, to come back to my story here, I emailed or instant messaged through the San Diego Pinball Club message board, user KME. Hey, do you still have the Skylab? Do you have any photos? And immediately, KME replied to me, I say immediately, a couple of minutes, with some beautiful photos of Skylab. He said it's one of the best back glasses I've ever seen on one of these. Thanks a lot. Signed, Keith Elwin. And I'm like, oh, now I feel stupid. Yes, KME in the San Diego Pinball Club is Keith Elwin, who at some point in history has been ranked, or has won tournaments and was considered by many the number one pinball player on the planet, or at least in the country. So he's still, I think, if we were to go to the fancy dancy IFPApinball.com and do a little world ranking search, Keith Elwin has indeed taken over the number one spot from Zach Sharp. So I was messaging the best pinball player in the world about this game, which I don't know what that means, but it was just sort of a weird little thing. So I emailed Keith, and actually I think my first email or two, I didn't even realize who it was. I just said, hey, cool, consider it sold. I want to buy this game. Because I didn't really care if it played good. I wanted it for the art almost as much as I wanted it for the game, if that makes sense. Yes, I want to play the game. Yes, I want it to work. But for $400, I've bought paintings for a lot more than $400 before. So for $400, I said, hey, Teresa, I'm going to buy this pinball machine that we should really think of as a work of art. And she said, which one are you selling? To which I looked at her and said, what do you mean selling? I'm not real good at this whole like flipping of games thing. I sort of tend to gather, and then only when absolutely necessary do I flip a game back out to the field. So I now have 4 games, which is too many, because like I've said many times, this condo really has room for about 2 pinball machines. So I said, no, Teresa, this is a piece of artwork. It's an EM. I don't even like to play EMs all that much, but it'll be pretty, and we can put it in the living room. To which, get this, everyone, she looked at me and said, okay. That is why. Well, that's one of the many, many reasons I love that woman. And she was down. She was cool. All good. So once I realized it was Keith Elwin I was emailing about with Skylab here, I followed up with, hey, man, would love to have you on this podcast that I do sometime. Hoping I would get a, yeah, man, sure, be cool. I know your show, or something like that, to which I never did get a reply. So I guess Keith doesn't know what this is or who I am. That's okay. That's all right. I'm sure he's got better things to do. So anyway, I was really sick. This is all while I was like deathly ill. And Keith said you can either come up. He was selling these games for a friend of his, I believe. So he said you can either come up to Oceanside where they're located, or I'm going to the High Dive Wednesday night. I can bring the game. I said, hey, perfect. I'll meet you at the High Dive Wednesday night. I walked into the High Dive. I recognized him from watching videos of him. I said, you Keith? He said, yeah. And he said, how long are you going to stay? And I was like, man, I hope I don't stay very long, because I was really sick. And so Keith was cool enough to just jump up right then and go grab his truck and pull it around, help me load it, with help from fellow San Diego Pinball Club member Ron. And we loaded it. He made sure I knew what I was doing, asked me if I knew how to put it together, which I said, oh, of course. It's 4 bolts, right? And off I went. And Keith seemed like a really sweet, nice guy, and very cool of him to broker that sale for me. So awesome. Maybe someday I will. I've actually had emails from a couple different people who said, dude, you're in San Diego. Keith Elwin's in San Diego. You should have him on your show. Maybe that'll happen someday. But I was so sort of sick and delirious that I didn't make any of that happen. So anyway, I got Skylab home. I keep wanting to call it Space Lab because that is the Adaball version of it, and it does indeed on the playfield on the inserts say Space Lab in big letters. You actually light up the letters for Space Lab, even though the game's called Skylab. Don't ask me, it was the 70s. So I got it home, put it together, powered it on, And you have that moment anytime you power something on, and just, man, I've never put an EM game together. I've seen how it's done. Like, I know the mechanics of putting it together, but I've never actually done it all by myself. Plugging those, wires in with the old school connector is just so neat and so cool. And, it was a trip seeing all the adjustments and how you're just pulling the wires out of the connectors and moving them up or down to change 3 or 5 ball in the game. It's just so cool. So, anyway, got it all together, powered it up, and let Teresa have the first game, as I do. She played a game, I played a game, and then nothing. Nothing worked. The lights worked, the start button didn't work, the flippers did not work, I could not get anything to work. Powered it down, powered it up, nothing. And I thought, maybe I need to put quarters in it. So I went and got some quarters. And I put them in, and nothing happened. And I was confused, because I don't work with EMs very often. Luckily, the internet saved me. There was a great forum post by someone saying you probably have to add credits manually via the credit reel, which was indeed the case. So, figured that all out, added myself 29 credits or whatever it took, and off I went, and I've been playing Skylab ever since. So, I live on the bottom floor in this condo, and above me are my neighbors. And the neighbors are a husband and wife, their 6 or 7-year-old son, and their 1 or 2-year-old daughter. The 6 or 7-year-old son wakes Teresa and I up almost every day. He's very loud. He runs around upstairs a lot. It drives me nuts. So sometimes when I'm working on Twilight Zone late at night and I have the glass off and I turn it on and the clock runs, that obnoxious shh clock noise, I don't care because they wake us up all the time. And the couple actually sleeps right above the room with the pinball machines. The kid sleeps above our room. Well, Skylab, it's funny for being an old machine, it's really loud. The chimes in this thing are just brutally loud, and the score reels are really loud. It's just, these games made a lot of noise. And I took great delight on Saturday afternoon as I was playing Skylab, and I finally got it over 100,000. Because it only goes up to 99.999 on the actual score reels. You have to light up the 100,000 light. So I got it up well into the 100,000. I was very proud of myself, and it was dinging and going off and making all these noises. And when you hit the bonus at the end of a ball, oftentimes it just really goes. I could hear the wife upstairs complaining to the husband about the noise. And I actually was sort of happy about that. But the problem is, the dog hates the noise, the cat hates the noise, and I think Teresa kind of hates the noise. The game's sort of loud. So I need to do some reading. I need to do some looking into that on ways to sort of mute my EM piece of playable art that is currently in our living room because my office has really no room to put a fourth game. So, very excited. I have an EM. We still have Bride of Pinbot. We still have Judge Dredd. We still have Twilight Zone. I'm actively pursuing trades on Judge Dredd. I'm looking for a few certain games, Doctor Who being one of them. And so we're working on that, slowly but surely. But I'm about to be traveling a bunch, so we'll see how that happens. So yes, that's the story of how I ended up with an EM. It's sort of a trip in a lot of ways, because I actually sort of thought I wouldn't ever own one, because I don't have a lot of love for them. But I played a lot of EMs at the Silver Ball Museum last year and rekindled my non-existent love for those games. And actually, Skylab is one of the games I played quite a bit there. So, very excited. Alright, this is going to be sort of free form because there's been a lot of stuff going on, and I'm just going to kind of run through some of it. The Hobbit update. We have now seen a whitewood for the lower half-ish of the Hobbit, I guess, which is cool. We'd already seen the CAD drawing, so I think we sort of knew what to expect there. There is a thread on the Pinside Pinball forums right now, in the Jersey Jack Pinball sub forum, called Hobbit Update, and I would encourage anyone interested, if they haven't been there, it's been up for a couple weeks. There is photos of the whitewood. You can sort of see the layout of the bottom half with the slings and the double inlanes and the flippers, the troughs, the pop-up, not trolls. I mean, I don't know what these pop-up guys are going to be. I don't know if they're just going to be targets, if they're going to be entrances to subways. I'm not sure. There's targets on the side where we knew there were going to be targets. We thought those were drop targets. There may still be drop targets, but it's stand-up targets right there right now. 2 flippers up on the upper half of the game. The whole thing's mostly symmetrical right now. I guess symmetrical in the way that, like, Medieval Madness is symmetrical. Like, it's mostly symmetrical, but things vary up top. Obviously, Smag is going to be up in the left, back left corner for the right flipper shot. So that was pretty neat. We saw people take the CAD drawing and actually lay it over the Hobbit playfield, which is cool. I feel like there's some inserts maybe yet to be seen. Like the big rectangular inserts don't seem to be present on that white wood. I don't know. So we'll see how that progresses. I did read some people who were really surprised that is all they've got so far. If this game's supposed to be released this year, me too, a little bit. I would think maybe they're delaying their teases. Maybe they are farther along and they're showing us stuff from a couple months ago. I don't know. They may run into an issue where if they do have all this knowledge of the third Hobbit movie, which will be out late this year, that they can't show us certain things because it has to do with the third movie. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Maybe more importantly, though, than the Whitewood was the release of the video screenshots, which are showing stuff that apparently we're going to see. You know, it's the Hobbit. Backglass display animations. Pretty cool. I'm actually looking at it right now. I much prefer the layout they have here. Like, there's a shot of Bilbo Baggins running up to the middle, and instead of the kind of the 4 quadrants that we saw in Wizard of Oz, you have sort of the center screen with the main video, and then in each corner you have other things happening, which I think is cool. We saw scoring that looked to be a little bit higher than the Wizard of Oz scoring. The Grand Champion score was well over 1 million points, which you do not see on Wizard of Oz very much. They went with that really low scoring system on Wizard of Oz, which sort of drives me nuts. You know, I get what they're doing, where they're trying to go back to the old simple scores, but you just gave me the most complex, beautiful, forward-thinking machine, and now I have this old school scoring, which I don't love. So, the graphics are really cool, and I think that's going to be a big win. I sensed reading the thread about this that people got pretty excited. That was enough to sort of drive maybe some people to jump in that hadn't jumped in. I really liked what I saw with the display, where you had like one screenshot showed sort of like a hand-drawn, like old school style map with some big points on it, and then in the 4 corners you had these 4 different things going on. You had the Hobbit guy in one, you had Gandalf in one. See, I know his name's Gandalf. You had the guys racing down the river in the barrels in one corner, and then the town that Smag may or may not lay waste to. Spoiler alert. Down in the other corner, and on attached to each one of those was 3 little dots that seemed to be little completion markers. So I think what we're going to see is a game with a really deep, awesome progression style rule set, which for the home crowd I think is key, very important, and going to be fun. So I'm really looking forward to The Hobbit. I know Medieval Madness, and it's going to be great. Medieval Madness is so fun. We love it. It's proven. I know I want a Star Trek, or I want a Metallica. I don't think I want a Mustang. But honestly, I think the game to be looking forward to right now is The Hobbit, because Jersey Jack and crew have already shown us the Wizard of Oz. They showed us how great that could look. Were there problems with the Wizard of Oz? Oh yeah. There's problems. There's documented lighting problems. There's, took them forever to get some stuff done. I don't know that game flows very well. I don't know what the hell to shoot at when I'm playing that game a lot of times. You've got all these rainbow targets. Am I supposed to hit them? Some of them? All of them? I don't know. So definitely some issues, but it was their first game. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Building a pinball machine is hard to do, and they did it. And they did a bang-up job for the first time. But Game 2, mistakes have been made and corrected. Lessons have been learned. And they have a theme that, I'm not like the biggest Hobbit guy in the world, not the biggest Tolkien guy, but it fits me and pinball in my world and what I want when I step up to a pinball machine more so than the Wizard of Oz. So that paired with pretty cool looking playfield, awesome big toy with Smaug. Don't know what he's going to do yet, but going to be cool, I'm guessing. Pop-up guys, pop-up not trolls. Going to be cool. 4 flippers, wide body game. I don't know. It's early. It's really early, but it all seems to be adding up to this is going to be a freaking epic game. And to think that the next one is going to be a Pat Lawler design after this, it's pretty cool. I'm excited. I'm up on Jersey Jack right now. If this is a buying and selling of stocks, I'm buying Jersey Jack right now. And I'm not saying I'm selling Stern. It's independent of each other. I'm buying Jersey Jack right now. So go check out that Hobbit update thread. A quick update on a thread we have mentioned before on the show. Where is the Metallica update? Soon? I hadn't looked at that thread in weeks, and it had something like 700 posts since I had looked at it. So I thought, they must have released the update. I was wrong. There is still no Metallica update. This is so disappointing. I don't even know what to say about that. Like, really? Medieval Madness, Planetary Pinball Supply, and overall update, official Planetary Pinball Supply, October 21st. This thread's been long ongoing. They have cleared legal with Williams on the Medieval Madness remake. When I talked to Josh Sharp, Josh told me off the record that his dad was going the next day to go play the game, which I think ended up being delayed a little bit by weather. He said he played it and loved it. I'm sure his dad ended up liking it. So it looks like they are good to go, and they're now sourcing parts to build this thing. This first remake, I think, is going to take a little bit longer than any other future remake. These are the growing pains of what they're trying to do. I think it's a big, big story in this industry. We've talked about it before, but we've cleared another major hurdle for the Medieval Madness remake by them getting the green light as far as the game goes. So I don't know, exciting. Maybe we'll see some of these at some of the shows coming up. So also, let's see what else we got on here. Papa TV Roadshow. Mark Steinman, who beat me out for King of Pinball 2013. It's okay. It's all right. Episode 3 of Papa TV Roadshow is posted. It's their best episode. Far and away best episode. Like I was just saying about Jersey Jack, getting better with number 2. I think that happened here with the Papa TV Roadshow. They got better with number 2, and then number 3 was by far the best of the episodes. The main interview is with the guy named Brian Stahl out of the Pittsburgh area. He has a really cool sort of horror-themed collection of pinball games, and just really, really neat stuff. The highlight to me was his Alvin G. Mystery Castle, a game I have never seen in person, never played, but would love to. And what a just awesome looking game. Very rare. Mark Steinman even lamented that he has not found one for the Papa facilities yet. So go check that out. If you're like me and you're, always looking for something else to listen to or watch, it's great that Papa is putting out this show, and I think they hit their stride with the right balance of mostly pinball stuff, with a few other little tidbits. So really enjoyed that. What else is going on out there in the world? Okay, so in the last couple days, we got a new Spooky Pinball podcast. We had the Pinball podcast not too long ago, and a Game Room Junkies episode was released, which albeit did not have a lot of pinball talk. That's okay. I love listening to Patrick and Preston's stories, even if it is about arcade games that I find not interesting very much at all. But that's okay. They're interesting, and pinball does cross over quite a bit there. And then just today, Monday, what's it, the 3rd? Monday, February 3rd? on my podcast player, when I looked down, I saw Pinball Soul. And I think we talked about a few episodes ago that Josh Blood at Pinball Soul was sort of taking a step back a little bit from the podcast and website, and GNX Wong would be doing all the updates on the site going forward. However, Josh put out a podcast interview today, and I actually have to look this up so I get the details right. But it was with the owners of an upcoming new arcade that I actually had penciled in on my radar for later in February when I'm up in the greater Boston area. It's going to be called Pop Bumpers Pinball, and Josh does a 30-minute interview with Liz and Scott Moore, who are opening this brand new arcade in North Weymouth, Massachusetts, which is south of Boston. And just brief overview of what's going on. Liz and Scott used to own a bowling alley. The crash of 2008 and the financial markets falling apart kind of forced them out of that business, and they wanted to get back into a business, owning their own business. They love pinball. They already had pinball machines, so let's do pinball. So this is going to be sort of a specialty, small-scale, retro pinball arcade. I don't even want to really call it an arcade. I think it's more of a retro pinball display, or, what's the word, exhibit. You'll have a flat fee to pay for. You pay and play. They won't do quarters or anything. And it's only going to be, around 10 games, all electromechanical or early solid-state games. And the whole list of games that they'll be starting with, they're opening actually in a couple weeks on February 15th, is included in the Pinball Soul episode. I'd encourage you to listen to that. But, it was games like Matahari, Star Trek, 8-Ball Champ, things like that. So check that out. It's another place to go play pinball in the greater Boston area, so more for New England. Very cool. Look forward to that. I hope they can make a go of it. I think they're looking to rent the area out to like birthday parties and events. North Weymouth is really a suburb of Boston. It's sort of like in the Quincy area, sort of the shore area. So I hope that 10 EM games is a draw. I mean, it worries me a little bit, honestly, that they won't get the traffic that they're going to need to get the money in to make a go of it. But I will certainly be going there and sharing my findings in a few weeks. I'll probably be there closer to the end of the month, more like the 22nd, 23rd, that weekend. But 407 Bridge Street, North Weymouth. So exciting that Josh Blood jumped back in and did another Pinball Soul episode so quickly after sort of announcing he was stepping back. Quick thoughts on Spooky Pinball. They are going to be shipping first production units of America's Most Haunted anytime soon, which is great. Ben Heck's designed game coming out now. Charlie seemed very preoccupied, no surprise, on the podcast. He seemed like he's very busy. He's trying to get these games out. I wish him the best of luck. I would love to have, at some point, and this has been in my back pocket, and I'll just throw it out there into the world now, because sometimes I think to make things happen, you have to just put them out in the ether and whatnot. The ether's not real, by the way. It's a fake term that people used to think was real. It's not. The ether doesn't exist. So I'd love to have Charlie on here. I think it'd be cool to have Charlie on here so we could pin him down and just ask him specifics, because he doesn't really want to talk about his company on his own podcast. I think he feels like he's self-promoting doing that, and maybe bragging doing that, so he doesn't like to do it. But I will gladly give Charlie and KT and the gang this forum if they would like to talk about Spooky Pinball LLC. And obviously, I don't even want to do it until we're closer to their game, Pinball Zombies from Beyond the Grave, shipping, because I know they won't want to spoil anything. So once we get to that, I am going to shout out to those guys and see if they'd like to come on and talk about the game. Maybe sell some games for them. I have a million emails. I don't have time to respond to them. I will just say thank you, guys. Boy, we're gonna get to these on the next episode. I have so many. I just tried to jump in real quick and see if there's anything that stuck out. Okay, let's read one. Okay, mailbag. Yeah, check the email. Blah blah blah. Deep voice. That guy.
Check the email.
The title of this email, and this is from 6 days ago, was Funhouse Podcast. And this is from Barry. Barry wrote, "Hello, I subscribe to a few podcasts, and yours is my favorite." Flattery will get you. Apparently will get your email read on the air. I have 2 questions. I own 2 pins at this time, Funhouse and a Bobby Orr Power Play. I think I've listened to about 35% of your podcasts and have never heard you say anything about Funhouse. I've heard some of the music, but nothing about the machine, etc. Is this because it's not a high-end game? I emailed John Usey, and I was surprised to get such a quick and genuinely nice response. I asked if he would sign something from my Funhouse and send it back. He said sure, and told me how to package certain items, and made small talk about my city. If you had a Funhouse besides the back glass, what would you have John sign? And that's a tough one. And so John, obviously, artist for Funhouse. I would have to look at the game and actually see if there's any good plastics to maybe have him sign. I think I would mainly go with the back glass to translate, or I would have, I'll tell you what I do. I'd have really cool custom rule cards printed somewhere, really nice ones, with like kind of a spot for his signature. And then I would also leave room for Mr. Pat Lawler's signature. And that would be my thing. I would try and get, if I couldn't get the apron to him, the actual metal apron part, I would get the rule cards signed by those guys. I think that'd be really neat. Yeah, so Funhouse. I love Funhouse. Funhouse will get reviewed by this podcast at some point. Not a high-end game? I think it is a high-end game. Funhouse is one of those kind of tweener games where for a lot of years, just because it was a high-production game, you could get Funhouse fairly cheaply. But now you've seen a lot of people restoring them. Collectors have jumped on it. It's a fantastic game. It's one of the coolest quote-unquote vibe games of all time because it mixes humor and sort of a dark creepiness. Rudy just has that little bit of like little uneasiness to him that they purposefully went for. And if you go back and listen to the Topcast episode with Clay Harrell, where he interviews Pat Lawler, that's the best stuff, was when Pat's talking about Funhouse and how they went and did the voicing on Rudy and everything. It's really, really interesting. And I love that game. I'm a huge fan. The only one I've ever had a real shot at buying had really bad Mylar bubbling, and I didn't want to drop the money, but I see them selling here in Southern California for over $3,000 now. So they're not cheap. To me, it is a high-end game. It's a fantastic game. It may be my favorite of the alphanumeric games from that era before we got DMDs. So definitely a game that I think could get the Bride of Pinbot 2.0 treatment. I mean, why not, right? You could do amazing animations on a DMD added to Funhouse. So, and it was a high production game, so there's a lot of them out there. A lot of people would probably make that jump. I would assume Dutch Pinball has probably already figured that out and already thought of that. So Barry, thank you for the email. That very kind of you to say that this is your favorite of the podcasts. It's my favorite podcast, really it is. So, with that, we are going to call it an evening. And I'm going to mix this thing down, throw it out there, and get to bed. Thank you for hanging with me and listening. Sorry we had a little week there. We didn't have a show. More is coming. Good stuff's happening. I look forward to meeting people at the Texas Pinball Show. We have new T-shirts. I have some more T-shirts in. These shirts are a color that was called Midnight. So if you look up Gildan shirts and Google the color Midnight, that's what color shirts they are. And in some lights, they look like sort of like a weird, creepy blue with some green tones to it. And in some lights, they look like almost a weird, creepy green. It's like a midnight teal, sort of dark blue. It's different looking. The text on them is the same logo on front and back that we've been running, but in gray this time. I showed it to a buddy of mine at work. I said, "What do you think of this shirt?" And he actually has one of my original green shirts. He bought one of those, and he said, "That's really cool. He wanted one." So I think it's a cool shirt. Same price, $18. PayPal to coast2coastpinball at gmail.com. We'll get it shipped anywhere in the United States. If you're outside the U.S., we will figure that out. So just email me if you're interested in shirts. I will get photos of those shirts up on our website, which is coast2coastpinball.com. You can email me at coast2coastpinball at gmail.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and get out there and play games on location. Enjoy yourselves. Talk later. Thanks. There's nothing here.